Preparing to stream. And we've got friends on the other side who will let us know how we're looking as well.
The other side.
On the other side of the YouTube, I think.
It's telling me it's live now.
Excellent. Thank you. Yes, we are
Preparing to
live.
stream.
And we've got friends on the other. Ta-da! Okay, so that's us there. I'm just going to. How do I mute this? Right, okay, we are on live now. If folks who are watching can put a wee message on, that'd be great. Just to confirm. Right, so we're actually on time as well this time, Kabie. So myself and Kabie have had done a few Facebook Lives with our friends from up in Aberdeen. We've got Aurora Consulting and Autistic Pride Aberdeen, as well as our friends at Amaze who are based in Edinburgh. So we've got a few channels between us where we put our YouTube lives, and we had one last year as well on the 3rd of December. So I felt okay, let's commemorate the International Day of the person of the disabled person by talking about something that isn't talked about very much. And that's why I thought after our chat that we had together, me and you, Jane, I thought, right, we need to let other people listen into things that you have to share. So, hello, I'm Sofia. I'm from Scottish Minority Autistics, based in central Scotland, but we are national in Scotland. And with me, I've got Kabie, who can introduce themselves, and Jane Green as well. Kabie, I'll go first, and then we'll give it over to Jane.
Okay, so I'm Kabie. I'm from ARGH Scotland, which is now a Scotland-wide organisation. It's collective advocacy mainly and lobbying and campaigning for autistic adults.
And I'm Jane Green. I'm the chair of SEDS Connective, which is a symptomatic hypermobility and neurodivergent user-led charity. We're registered in the UK, Wales, and Scotland. And we've got Scottish members. I don't know if you're there.
Well, hopefully by the end of this, you have more members. You'll get in the YouTube description, I'll put in links to both charities as well, because ARG Scotland just recently were incorporated as a skill. Is that right, Kabie?
That's right, yeah.
Good
Exciting
news.
times.
Yes, I'll put in links for all three
Yeah,
non-profits there. We're not a charity,
yeah,
we're a non-profit company, which is
yeah.
pretty much kind of the same thing. So what we want to talk about was, what does it mean by connective tissues? How does that relate to being neurodivergent? How can we get support? What things will help us? And how do you explain these things to our loved ones, or if you want support at work or at school or college? So it's a huge topic. So we can't cover everything, but we just want to talk about the basics so that people can find the language to continue learning.
Yeah. It is absolutely huge. And, even one of those questions I probably won't do justice to. I think over the years, the hardest one is getting over the fact that what on earth am I talking about when I say something in the body is linked to neurodivergence? It just seems so bizarre, doesn't it? And I think that's the first thing. But this is based on neuroscience. So I've got some slides. I might not have them all because we've got an awful lot. Whoops, sorry. And obviously this is a nice informal webinar. And but I mean, it'd be quite good to get questions as I go along, because I think otherwise you forget where you are. And I do lots of presentations. I better introduce myself a bit more actually. I'll just tell you about SEDS a little bit, is that we just formed from unmet needs. I mean, we didn't exist. And that's what I was looking for, because I knew about it like back in 2009, because I became a teacher and I worked with all different children, all different ages. And and I kept seeing a pattern of things that I'd experienced. I left school early. It's a long story, but considered them, missing from school, and considered a hypochondriac and everything else that goes with it. For many, many years, I thought that was it. And then later on, I had children, both had medical health issues, but my eldest was diagnosed autistic, ADHD, dyspraxic, and a learning disability before the age of 3. But the medical health issues were there. And then I started wanting to help because I got fed up of being stigmatized, which I've been constantly. Is a natural thing. So I became a teacher. It was very hard work because I didn't have the qualifications, and I've pulled myself up and I became assistant head teacher, but I had to retire in 2015. I'm very lucky to be here. I won't go into it too much, but it was quite traumatic for 2 years. I was bedbound, had everything going wrong, and at one point couldn't breathe. And my children asked me if I was dying, and I didn't know what to say. My youngest was my carer for quite a long time during it. So I stabilized off and on, and started this little community group that's now a charity and has global reach, and we have an awful lot of people. We are voluntary. We don't mean to stay voluntary. It's a very hard financial year for us this year, but yeah, we have helped save lives, and that's what we do. Shall I share my screen for a slide? I'm just thinking it might be good to do this one actually.
Yeah, the introduction of like what does it mean by connective tissues?
Yeah. No, I'm not going to that one. No, I'm gonna do this one. You're gonna get what you get. Okay. Right, let me just no, I didn't want that one. I just want from the current slide. Thank you. Which screen can you see? Can you see my notes or the other one? I might swap. Hang on. There.
That's better, yeah.
So first of all, I often use hypermobility because there's so many different types and acronyms, and it changes. It's still changing. And most people think it's double jointedness, yeah? So it's like doing party tricks. And you can do it when you're younger, and you get a lot of attention. It's great, you get attention. You're not getting told off because you can do things that other kids can't do. So that's quite fun on that part when you're young. The trouble is, it often causes injuries and illness, and I'll tell you why. Now, that person on the left, an older person with a rollator, that's what she's doing. We find younger people have that. I did. We need these things, sometimes wheelchairs. It isn't advantageous. So we get lots of people who can be gymnasts, they can be ballet dancers, they might be sporty, football, whatever they're doing, swimmers, Olympic swimmers and so on. You'll find they've got hypermobility. It's quite a lot of them. Music, there's a lot of musicians who've got this because they've got extensive range, voice, and I can explain why, and reach, and also sort of a creative brain. So it can be advantageous, but it can have really serious health issues. And so holding your stomach and so on is quite common. How am I going to move? Oh, yeah. I'm not going to go there right now. No. I'm going to go here. So I'm going to talk about connective tissues. And if you think of you're building a house and you've got the builders in, it's meant to be brick. Yeah, it's brick. It's got plaster over it. And they start building it, and then they use a certain proportion of sand and water and cement. And then they go break, and you get another group in, and they use a different proportion of sand, cement, and water. And then they've decided to go on holiday because they're builders and they've got enough money. sorry, builders, and you get another lot in, and they start doing it the other side. You're going to get a really dodgy house, probably. This is just making it up. But then you add in the waterworks, you add in the electrics, you add in the furniture, you have the temperature difference, right? Then you add in people, and you've got to add in hormones, and then what you get is an explosion. And that, in a nutshell, is often what happens to us, happened to me and many others. So what is it, though, these connective tissues? Well, you've heard of collagen, I'm sure, you know, like collagen in creams. The collagen is a protein, and it's the main one in connective tissue. There are some other bits, and it's weaker. So collagen in non-hypermobility people is quite it's not rigid, it's strong, and so it keeps things in place, like the joints, the ligaments, the tendons. It surrounds the cartilage, the blood vessels, and actually this collagen in the connective tissue surrounds the body, in our organs. It stabilizes muscles, the stomach, the pelvic abdomen, the cavities, the pelvic floor, and so and the skin, of course. So it surrounds the collagen surrounds each individual cell and allows it to function. And also, I don't know how much you know about the autonomic nervous system. So you've got one side that helps you sleep, digest, rest, and that's a bit people always trying to get us to do, to relax, to, you know, sympathetic, get it calm. And then you've got the other side, which I think I might have got that one actually, just check. The other side, which is good if you don't like spiders or something's coming at you in danger, you've got to be on alert, you've got to get that adrenaline going so you can get out of danger or something explodes. Yeah. So you've got those two sides, and that is very key for us as well. And it connects to the brain. So because our connective tissue is weaker, it's like spaghetti a bit, it's just stretchier, and that means the bones and ligaments can do these contortions, and it's okay when you're young, but please don't do it too much. And but as you get older, it can lead to a lot of injuries because we're not as stable. It takes much more energy to sit up, to stand up, yeah, because we're using the extra energy, because actually our connective tissue is a bit like this. And so everything we do is taking more energy, and everything is affected by it. So all our senses are, and everything. So it's a sort of, that's why you say body-brain connection in one way. And it's not just that, but it does, it because of this weakness, other things that happen with hypermobility impact quite a lot. And so I'm just going to go back and show you a Baton scale. Now, at the moment, this is where we are. It's changing. And we've got to keep up. So when I was diagnosed, finally, in 2015, I was 53. I got an EDS3 diagnosis. And then it changed in 2017 to hypermobility Ehlers-Danlos. But whatever diagnosis you have, apart from a couple of very rare ones, you use the Baton scale or the Baton score. And at the moment, it's you're meant to do it. My hands are all bendy. It's useless here. Can't do it on the screen. But you might be able to. So yeah, you're doing the fun one, and so you have to do it on both hands. I see it. I bet everyone's doing this. And then your little, my hands are bendy. It's very hard for me to get them straight on the camera. But you're meant to have it on a straight level, and you can bend your finger at 90 degrees, your little finger, each one. Where are we? Yeah, so I don't know if you can see. So can you see the elbows are going, oh, no. I'm hyperextending my elbow so that the hand is going down.
If you put your camera slightly down,
Mm.
and then we'll be able to see that.
So can you see it's, you shouldn't be doing
Okay,
this too much. Can you
just
see?
slightly, yeah.
So
Oh,
I've got,
the bottom right picture, that one.
yeah,
That's what you're relating to.
yeah. So you do both arms. So each of those are 2 points each. And this one, sorry, the one where you've got your hands touching the ground with straight legs is 1 point. And you know, I've known autistic men 6'2" do this, no problem. And they go, oh, it's no problem to me. I'm hypermobile, so what? Well, that's great, but that's not what we're talking about. So this is just a Baton scale where they get the points. And it's not good to have 9 points, by the way. It's not like I need to get 9 points to win. You don't really want it. And you get a score. So for children, it's about after the age of 5, it's 6. They have to score 6 points. And then from 13 onwards, it's about 5 and onwards to adults. And then age 54, you can go down to 4 points for adults, because we get stiffer. We actually get really, really stiff as you get older, more stiff than most people. And that's weird as well, because people think, I haven't got hypermobility, I'm really, really stiff, really, really stiff. And that's what happens because it's so weak, the muscles are being overused in certain areas and they get stuck. They go into cramp, rigid. I mean, I've had this, I couldn't relax my muscles for so long. I mean, it's just constant cramps. It's really uncomfortable. You can stretch it out, but it'll come back in a second or two. So the stretching isn't what we have to do, but I'll come back to it later. The two on the left, there's my hand, there we go, and are not part of it, but might be. We're guessing at SEDS. I'm doing it now, that one at the bottom, where you put your hands together behind your back.
Yeah, that one, I saw that online the other day. The one where you put your hands behind your back.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a revelation to me because I thought everyone could do that.
Yeah, I can do that. I'm just doing it now.
Everyone can do that. What's special about that? There's nothing special about that.
You better go round the town and wherever you live, and I'll start asking people. You'll find it quite interesting. And also what you'll notice is once you get your head on this, you'll see people standing. I'll show you one, I think I've got it, standing in a particular way. It's like I've got a radar for this, you know, I can see it, not only the way you stand, the skin and talk and everything now. But I'm not a diagnostician, by the way. I cannot do that. But I have I have a radar, and you start noticing it quite a lot. It's a common thing. So people say, I thought everybody can do this and that. No, it's quite different. Well, obviously, quite a lot of neurodivergent people can. I'm just going to go back and forth because I can't remember where we are. But it's the bendiness, if you like, is affected by hormones. So at puberty, there's often more flexibility there. And as you know, if you're pregnant as well, you get different hormones that are meant to relax your joints. Well, for us, that's even worse sometimes. So it's quite interesting there. And there's lots going on. I won't go into that one. I just wanted to go on back. I'm going back and forth because I haven't got this organized, obviously. I mean, looking at the history, I think someone's going to do a paper on this. I'd love to know. Hippocrates did mention it in the Airs, Waters and Graces. And he talked about these nomad warriors that were really useless because their shoulders weren't very good at bow and arrows. and they had poor wound healing, and that's really key. And then the thing about this is women have been considered frail and psychosomatic and neurotic and all those things for a long time, because often all the tests we get come back negative, i.e., they're not positive, so there's no investigation and there's nothing we can do. And this has happened for centuries. And so in 1901 and 1908, you've got Dr. Ehrlich and Dr. Danlos, and you can see where that name came from. But it's been that long time, time, I can't even say it, sorry, I'm getting tired, that long ago since this happened. And the picture on the bottom is Paganini, that was very tall and probably had a type of Marfan's, which is slightly different, but extremely good musician and can play 3 octaves with his handspan, which apparently is really amazing. And so we do find a lot of diagnosticians, musicians have these issues. And going back to the voice, it's really interesting because I haven't said this before. I couldn't speak when I was really ill. I couldn't breathe, I couldn't speak. And, I was doing all this physio. You have to do physio for everything. And they wanted me to do breathing physio, and it's so boring. I hate being bored. And I just couldn't bear it. And then, but I remembered what helped once before was using my voice, singing. And so I'm in the village, right? And I found this little choir, and I got it literally is around the corner, and they took me there. Couldn't sing at all. I just tried like the breathing and then doing that thing, and I thought, but I went back, and then yeah, we performed at an abbey and I was the main. I became an alto. I'm a really deep alto, and I don't know where that happened because I was really high. But apparently, our voice box can stretch, and if you think of some very well-known singers, they've got an amazing range, and it's not all trained. I'm thinking, rocks, pop, and stuff like that. So it is. I want to say as well, the collagen is heritable. It's not genetic, it's heritable. That means it can be passed down. It's not automatic. The next child will get it, but it's heritable, and yeah. So there's a lot going on. On the rare types, which have 12 types, so I go into it, you can test it with blood. We've got a blood test and test a gene. There's a gene recognized for them. They're very rare. I think the next one after the common ones are classical EDS, which is about 1 in 20,000. And then you have vascular AIDS, which is really can be life-limiting at 1 in 50. But our type, which is hypermobility Ehlers-Danlos or hypermobility spectrum disorder, is very common, and you can't test it, and that's the issue, isn't it? We're called making it up, and so it's done on clinical assessment, or it used to be, and family history. The only problem is not many people have a family history of a diagnosis.
Well, diagnosis is a big hot topic around here in Scotland, isn't it, KB? Trying to get a diagnosis for something that some lot of people can't see or have little research on is very much impossible. It's very common then if you are neurodivergent, you're not believed anyway. And the whole pain scale is different for us and how we're interacting with the clinicians. So yeah, like for example, you won't get a diagnosis for dyspraxia. It's very, very hard. I'm very sure I have some degree of hypermobility, but I wouldn't know where to go with that or what to get support with. My two boys, both of them have hypermobility in the wrist, and that affects their writing as well at school.
Yeah,
But that only
yeah,
got looked at when we got a specialist in, seeing an occupational therapist. When I say OT, I mean occupational therapist, and testing the range and how he writes and how even how they're holding a pencil. So I've got a Kabie pencil here. It's triangular and it's got little dots on it. It's like sensory wise, it's really good. It's a triangular one that I've got for the kids and for myself, and that helps position the pencil compared to a cylindric pencil, which is not very helpful at all, actually. Like things like that would help, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot in education, things like that. But I tell you what's really interesting. Dyspraxia, we think is hypermobility. Hypermobility is a mechanism. But I can't handwrite. And I was an assistant head teacher in front of a class. And but I'd learned this trick earlier on because I can't navigate either. I'm absolutely useless. I get lost in my own house.
I lost my car this afternoon, and that's the car park.
So I can get it drives me mad, but I can't. And but one of my children wanted to be a cub years ago, and I had to be there for both of them because I was a single parent. And so they said, yes, you can, but you've got to be a cub assistant, right? Which is ridiculous because I can't tie knots and I can't navigate. But what I learned was when I had all these difficult children, they called them. There was, I found them, it was fun. But we would be somewhere in the forest or something, and I'd say, who can show me the way to get back? Fastest. Yay. And so I learned that trick. So when I was doing schoolwork, I said, who would like to write on the board? Please.
I did that a lot. I'm also a teacher, a teaching background here, but I
Yeah.
found that not only does that help your shoulders and the writing, and I never wrote straight. I'll be going downwards, and also my graphs. I mean, I do maths, so when it comes to the graphs and all that, not happening. But I would also quite often get students to the board to write it out, and hey, they loved it, and it was easy, good for them. It was good for us, right?
Yeah, they do love it. And I think it's a really good thing to do. Why not? And if I make a mistake, I think I'm probably dyslexic. That will be the most interesting diagnosis if I get one. I am dyscalculic, so goodness knows how I managed to get qualifications at times. But yeah, it's difficult. But you're right, with children, I've got quite strong fingers actually, but a lot of people don't. And they they're very bendy. My eldest is so bendy they can flop the fingers straight back to the wrist. And so you often get they're either digging into the paper like that, or they're all airy-fairy like that, and it hurts. And so I know when I was doing or trying to do exams, it just hurt. I mean, it just hurt. So I gave up. And so when my eldest was in the primary school, and the only one with that label diagnosis, can you imagine how there was a lot of stigma? I was called up to the front in front of everybody every day, and I said, look, can we get? I'd looked into it. You can get an Alpha Smart. This was back in the 1990s. Alpha Smart. And I taught my eldest to touch type. I always said, why not? It's equal things, and it's very, very good. So, have I gone wrong? Are there any more questions on that? But it is very interesting because some people will never get that pencil grip. And pens, the pen license, difficult. You do have it in Scotland, don't you?
What's that?
The pen license. You're not allowed a pen license to use a pen in school until you've mastered handwriting.
Oh,
I don't think they had that in my kids' schools. I remember it from when I was a child, and it was I
We
never
still
got a
have it.
pen. I never made it to a pen. Well, obviously, eventually in secondary school I did get a pen, but it took me a long time, and I couldn't get a pen license. But no, my kids didn't have it here in Scotland. It's a
No,
horrible thing. It's a really,
it's a
really
horrible thing. And
Sophia's
also
frowning
some
at me. You've
people
not heard
don't
of
have,
this, Sophia?
yeah, some people don't have right-handedness. They're both like, if you like, both left-handed, like ambidextrous, but both quite weak. And so you're never going to get that control. But actually, we think if you ask an occupational therapist, it is about the core control. So it's about the collagen, It is about the collagen. You need for fine motor, you need a major motor control, and we find that really difficult. So you'll find the kids are slumping, you know, sitting in W shapes and all that. Pain. This is pain. This is what I think pain is. So when I go to hospital, so many times you get the VAS scale, like the smiley face and the, you know, cross face, 1 to 10. Didn't mean a thing to me because I don't smile all the time when I'm happy, and I don't, you know, I don't show anger or upset all the time on my face. And I think that's quite common. And I didn't know how to grade it because I've had pain all my life. It's like all constant. If I'm in hyperfocus, I don't notice it so much, or I'm really enthralled watching something. But if it's really severe, you know, it feels like this. So we've done some projects before, which I loved, and virtual reality. This is what this isn't our picture. I've got her credit there, but this is what it was a bit like for me. The third one in was my leg, and except it was on fire as well as being barbed wire inside my leg. That's how it felt. I wanted my leg cut off. I dreamt of my leg being cut off. And I think people, you know, it's very interesting if you're trying to, you're asked by doctors, what sort of pain is it? Or you've got pain in one bit, but you've got another throbbing bit over there, and you've got this migraine going on. It's like, I don't know how to, and then you've got to express it and articulate it, and you go, in the end, you might just give up. So there we go, you mask pain. I believe we mask a lot of pain. We're fed up of being stigmatized because then we get the rolling eyes, and we're told we're neurotic and a hypochondriac. So you start to mask pain because you don't want all that again, do you? And I think a lot of the children grow up doing that and learn to do it. But also they're not told about this, you know, they don't know because their parents don't know about pain. And it's not, these are normal quite often. We don't realize it. We had a wonderful webinar last night as well with our second patron, a neurogastroenterologist, and we know the gastrointestinal tract, like basically from eating to exit, is affected. It is affected because of the collagen. We've got the weaker collagen, and everything that comes with that is affected. So I remember my eldest being diagnosed with oral dyspraxia. It's probably hypermobility, dysphagia when you can't. There are lots of people can get dysphagia. It's not just hypermobility, but a lot of people get something, feel they've got something stuck in the throat. Or like they can't swallow a pill and something like that, or they feel they're going to choke.
Oh, does that have a link with eating disorders, ARFID?
Yes, one of my favorite subjects is this. So my eldest had ARFID, yes, but also had a lot of bowel pain. When I was ill, I couldn't eat. And I wanted to eat, I wanted to live, I couldn't eat. I lost a lot of weight, and the test came back negative. I can also go into anaphylaxis, but I mean, you literally get wheals and rashes around you, you're coughing, you're vomiting, you've got a lot of nausea, you try and eat, you've got these cramps going on. I couldn't eat. I wanted to eat and I couldn't. And in the end, I got a bit of a phobia of food. Now, it's a bit different from ARFID, but I do think as a middle-aged woman, I had that. I avoided food. As a child, I would avoid food, but I didn't know how to articulate it or express it. So as a young child, and I write about this a lot, if you can't, and often we can't verbalize what we're feeling, you know, it takes longer to express it and understand it, we're going to just avoid it, aren't we? Yeah. But I mean, I think both exist, but to ignore the physical is masking it, and it causes more issues and more trauma. And looking at I'm not saying all children have this straight away. A lot do because of lactose intolerance, and other allergies, uh, which is more complex. But we can get very direct food allergy, and we can get intolerance, and sometimes they all interconnect. So it's complicated. I'm trying to do it like really, really quite simple. But here is a graphic. Now this is in English, so I don't know if you've got the other one, but I've got ARFID there on the right, and we've got a child one as well. And these are really common symptoms that a lot of our members we put together, but often seen as something else by others. And that's where we are. It's quite common. It's really interesting. This isn't all data, empirical data at the moment, but we're pretty sure autoimmune and things like endometriosis are linked to connective tissue differences, infections, and so on. The skin is really interesting too. Go on, question. You got questions?
I have a question. Okay, so I have somebody who I look after, and I'm very sure, well, they've got fibromyalgia, arthritis, I suspect POTS. But this, when you just mentioned skin there, I just lit up because they'd say that their skin feels itchy and it's a sensation, but and they really can't tolerate it on their back and the arms or sides. But when you touch the skin, it's not dry. It's not rough. It's just okay, normal, not particularly as much as the complaint is. You can't see anything physical, like there's any, rash or anything of that sort, any bumps, nothing. It's just looking okay, a bit freckly, but that's it. But they'll be saying like, no, it's really, really itchy. I can't, and it's intolerant, it keeps them up at night. Is there a connection with that?
Um, I'm not a clinician, so I can't
Yeah.
say. I mean, you can have a sensory issue. So often we like cotton
Hmm.
for a reason. And my youngest, I had to wrap up in muslin cloth head to foot because he looked like a car crash every morning because he had severe eczema. But so cotton is very useful. It's hard to say. You can get so many different things with the skin, but there's something called mast cell, and the mast cells in our body are there to fight injury, illness, whatever it is. So it might be a bee sting or it might be a wound, and you need them because they go straight to the
Are they
to
immune cells, immunity cells, basically?
they're white cells.
Yeah.
And but they've got a particular area to stop invaders and mend the injury, infection, or whatever. For us, because maybe they've got hypersensitized, we don't know, they overreact quite a lot. So I don't know if I got the child one here, but what we often get with children, first of all, is eczema, and then we get hay fever, rhinitis, atopic dermatitis is eczema, seborrheic, oh my words, the cradle cap. You
Hmm.
get cradle cap, you get a lot of dandruff. I mean, when I say dandruff in children is quite unusual. I mean severe dandruff. Urticaria is rashes and wheals without being ill, particularly. Rhinitis is like a drippy nose, but you haven't got a cold. So the mast cells can just go a bit overboard, I would say, and you can get into this cycle where it can't. You're stuck in this cycle of being attacked by your own histamine. So it releases histamine, so you can swell up. Oh, you can swell up. I've swollen. I'm not as bad as some people, but I can swell up. And it often happens. Even if I'm in something I'm enjoying, it can happen. But I do know people, and I have it to mold as well. I got angioedema, but I do know people who have to take clothing out with them like 3 sizes bigger in case it happens, because you just get all this fluid building up. Yeah, but that's quite unusual. What I was going to say about the skin is you can get very thin skin, so you can see all the capillaries and veins underneath, and it's almost you bruise really easily. So for children, they can bruise really easily and get wounds, and that can be difficult if you don't have an explanation for it as a parent or a teacher.
That's
You
kind
get
of
what I'm
worse when you're also clumsy and you bump into stuff as well when you've got really bad proprioception and vestibular balance as well, because that just adds on to it, doesn't it? It just piles on.
Proprioception. Sorry,
Hmm.
that's one of the senses. Yeah,
Yeah.
proprioception is definitely affected by his cat, and we generally you can be very good at sport or play piano and have really good proprioception, but generally, as you're just walking out the door after you finish, bump, bump,
Yeah.
crash, break a glass, do this, do that, and that is emotional dysregulation. So it causes us can cause issues with our emotional regulation. That's a study. Um, what I wanted to say was it's also safeguarding, because often you don't see these bruises and you can get the joints coming out of the joint a bit, and it can happen without any accident. So parents are often say, "How did this happen?" And they don't know. So it's quite scary. But you can also get really, really thick skin, like silky skin. And so you often find that, say, autistic people have very thick skin, sort of no lines, no character lines on them, and they look younger than they are. So when we talk about poor wound healing, it's not always right on the surface of the skin. It can get like cigarette scars. They don't heal well, but it's actually underneath. We don't heal so well, so we get a lot of prolapses. We try and avoid operations if you can, because it takes longer to mend than the general population.
What's the link with neurodivergence and connective tissues? Because I think arthritis or fibromyalgia is quite common and autoimmune disease, and people can relate to these things, which is the reason why I had asked to have this conversation, was because when we talk about people being autistic and their sensory differences and communication differences, they don't quite get what we're on about and they just put us down and just say,
Yeah.
no, you need to change, you need to, to try and therapize or change our behaviors so that we can be less autistic or tolerate more painful sensory environments just because we fix ourselves apparently. So the reason why I find this whole talk fascinating is that people can relate more to the medical part of the implications of being neurodivergent.
Yeah, so this is based on studies, which I'll show you if I've got them on this presentation. I just wanted to bring up, Arvid, there. You might have heard of irritable bowel syndrome and bloating. I don't know if I've got my gastrographic here. And also anxiety, I just wanted to bring up.
I was going to
Um,
mention anxiety as well when you talk about mast cells and anxiety. There's some sort of link. I'm not. I want to learn more about all that.
try. This is one of the senses. So when I first started, I only knew about 5. This was back in the 90s. But there are 8. I've got my old logo on. I must change it. But so the inner senses are vestibular, proprioception, so knowing where you are. I used to have my cat's whiskers on, but bless him, he's no longer with us. But cat's whiskers help them to sense where they are in relation to other things, like a horse and so on and so forth. And then interoception is the sense of what we have in our body. So do we need to go to the loo? Do we need to eat? Do we need to drink? Okay, you don't always know it if you're hyper-focusing, let's face it, but we don't always know. And you don't know if you're tired until your eyes are actually like, oh, I've yawned. That must mean something. and then boom. And so what I saw children is like, you know, I'd be told, oh, they make it up, they've nothing happened to them, but they're suddenly screaming in pain. Well, actually, it's just been recognized that they are in pain, but it comes after an event or something happening. So they'd suddenly feel like it was horrible, something was horrible, but they couldn't explain it. And but with pain, this is really key because we don't know until it's overwhelming quite often. And also the stigma, as I said, comes into play. So you don't want to say you're in pain in case you're not believed again. So it's like a two-way thing going on there. And so a little bit about the heart there. We don't know if it's really working too hard or not. I'm going to go on. And there's a little rash, a bit of swelling there, which I've already talked about myself. But I'm going to go on to anxiety a little bit and something called, you might have heard of POTS and orthostatic intolerance. So this is when this autonomic nervous system I talked about isn't working. It's called dysfunction of the autonomic nervous system, and that's dysautonomia. Took me ages to pronounce that. And syncope is fainting. Orthostatic intolerance is what I have. Not everyone has POTS. POTS is postural tachycardia syndrome. It's actually got, we call it POTS. I don't know why they call it POTS. It's got no O, but it could have an O. I don't know. But basically what happens is that you're lying down. This is one type. You're lying down or sitting and you go to stand up. Remember that connective tissue and the collagen's weak. You're going to stand up. The vascular system and the blood can't get the blood up to your brain. And so you start going dizzy. I get it a lot. And you get brain fog. Okay, you get brain fog, you're dizzy. You might faint if it's really bad. Sometimes it can happen if you're standing and you're not moving, or in a hot temperature, or in a hot shower, or you've just had a big meal. And so what the heart does, I don't know if this will work. Yeah. So what the heart will do, thank you. What the heart will do is start beating really, really hard because it knows the blood, the oxygen needs to get to the brain, right? And so, but it's horrible because what you're feeling like, great, I've got a lovely day, I'm going to be doing this, I'm going to be doing that. And then you get this going on and your heart starts pounding. I mean, it's like it's jumping out of you. And you start getting like your shallow breathing, you're getting shaky. And do you remember that graph when I said it, and this is what it is and what it seems like from others? Anybody looking at that will say, oh, well, they're autistic. So they're being oversensitive to people, the environment, and so on. But this is actually science. And because the heart is trying to pump the blood up, it has to work extra hard to do it. And so there are various ways you can alleviate this, but you might have to see a cardiologist to either get a test or try different things. The test is quite bit mean. And so this is the bucket of dysautonomia. I have one for burnout, by the way, because believe it or not, burnout is hypermobility. Someone once said to me, can you do any topic on connective tissue and turn it round? And I think I probably can. Someone's going to have to test me one day. But this is the bucket. It could be for school, it could be for work, it could be for life. All these issues come in, and by the end, you're totally exhausted because it's taking a lot of effort to do all these. And often we have bad sleep, insomnia, and non-restorative sleep is part of hypermobility, which is why a lot of people don't sleep well, or they wake up at 3 a.m. And that's very common, and children don't sleep. So it's not always about POTS. I want to talk about that quite a lot. There's also static intolerance, and I've forgotten the other one at the moment. So there we go. It's not always so what POTS is in particular is a raised heart rate over 10 minutes, and I think for children it's, oh gosh, I think it's I might be wrong, it might be 130, and I think for adults 140 over 10 minutes. I have to check. But there are different types of POTS as well, and some is about blood volume and hormones and so on. So that it goes quite complex as well. Ooh, where am I? I have got this is my gastro one. Anyway, shall I stop? I love this one.
I was going to say, when you're talking about the hormones, then does that just mean in the POTS and the hypermobility, or in fact, a lot of things that you talked about, does that just get really worse when you're hitting menopause and perimenopause?
It actually go back, puberty.
Yeah, you got your
Go
puberty and
back,
you,
go back, conception.
oh
But
God.
I'm very, very big on pregnancy and birth. It's a huge issue. I need to do more on that. And then
What?
you've got puberty, and then puberty monthly. So you've got these hormones coming in, and look, what age are they? They've just usually gone to secondary school. Adds up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So hormones are key. So boys are equally affected by this, by the way. We've got some very, very sick boys. So late toileting is quite common. I know a 13-year-old girl who has to wear incontinence pads and she won't go to school. Now, she's not going to say why. She likes her peers, but she doesn't want to say she's got to wear incontinence pads because she's got no bladder control. But this can happen with connective tissue. We have there are two twin boys. Poor things, we get a lot of compaction, impaction, constipation, diarrhea. You can have both. And late toileting, so the mother gets blamed, for not getting ready for school. They're late. Why are they so late? Why haven't you trained them? And then they have accidents at school, and staff are really under pressure at school. They do a lot, it's a lot to do. But there are no answers, and the tests don't come back, and so they're avoiding school too. It's getting very anxiety. That is leading to mental anxiety, and you get a lot of abdominal pain. This study, 90% of people with hypermobility Ehlers-Danlos, that's the most common, probably about 85% of people with AIDS. And hypermobility spectrum disorders, which is different but closely related to hypermobility AIDS. So the people with a formal diagnosis have these very, very common gastrointestinal issues. And when I show this to people, they go, oh, yes, I've got that.
Like a bingo.
Bingo. And
Keepy.
the food probably comes into there, doesn't it? A bit. Yeah, so we all vary, and you can have flares of things. You've got to remember, it's not always said. I want to just like, I don't like to be doomed. So if you've got children, it doesn't mean you're going to have this. This is why I did the paper. I've got a peer-reviewed paper with pain advisors. I write lots and lots of articles and do lots of talks, because until people join us and accept this and we get some really, really good data out, we're going to keep dismissing future generations. And so it's really important, and they'll grow up with more trauma, not being believed. So I think it's really important. We can save a lot of money for everybody, if we just join up body and brain. But yeah, these things are really painful. There's something called GERD and GORD. It depends if you're American. I've just been speaking to Americans, but reflux. So the stomach, you've got acids in your stomach that break up food, and it goes into the little colon and then the big one, and they've got little if you like, latches, sphincters, and they've got collagen in, and some of them are really weak, so they don't close properly. They don't clamp.
Mm.
And so the one at the top of the stomach is meant to clamp to stop the acids going back up the esophagus, which is but it doesn't. So you get a
I
lot
have that issue. That's,
of
yeah.
you can get that as well at the other end of the stomach and all over the place. Basically, everyone's different. The pelvic floor is a key thing. Our bladder can stretch huge, or it can't. But each way you can have a very what's the word? Triggered bladder. So you need to go all the time, or you don't need to go at all. We're quite extreme, I
I'm just
find.
going to
Okay, I've
bring
got a
Kabie in
question.
there.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have a
go.
question, but it's sort of going back a bit to somewhere you almost went but then didn't.
Oh,
And I'm
sorry.
thinking about advice, like as a parent, and
Mm.
advice for maybe other parents. You were talking about maybe your child's really good at ballet or really good at gymnastics, and also that they might be, showing off to their friends all of these gross tricks that they can do. Should a parent be discouraging that? Should it be, oh, they're really good at being being bendy? You know what I mean? That sounds as a really bad way of taking it. Or
No,
should
no,
you be thinking,
I
oh, I don't know,
actually
that
did
might
a
be causing
talk.
problems? Because I've read conflicting things on the internet about this. I've read, oh, people shouldn't be overextending themselves because you're storing up trouble for later. But then I read, oh no, it's fine, it's really good, and it's good for you. So
It, so if they're doing ballet or gym, they'll be hopefully they're being trained how to do it.
mm,
So what they're doing is probably hopefully strengthening, because I do know some ballet mums and I've seen them, and they don't let them, they can overextend too, they're hypermobile, but they make sure they've got the strength before they do, like, go on point or something like that, which is really key. So doing ballet is good until you get injured, and then we decondition very quickly. I've got a lot of ballet dancers in fact, prima ballerina, and gymnasts as well. It's when you stop from injury or so on, which often happens, is the issue. But strengthening is good. Now, you don't want to hyperextend. It's very easy for me to hyperextend a lot, and I don't always know it. That's the trouble. So I always say, you can't stop a kid's passion. I don't think you should ever, because that's what makes us what we are. Um, but you can support it and educate, and you can do it with different things. Often they have, like, I don't know, a nice animal or a toy, and you can say if that goes too far, they won't know, but they need to go that far. Can you do that with your arm and just go like that? Swimming is really good, things like that, because it's non-weight bearing. But overextending, like doing yoga, I would probably suggest no, because it's far too easy to go wrong. I know. So it's about strengthening rather than stretching. So as long as you do both, stretching is good as well to some extent, but it's the strengthening you have to do. And that's what they'll be doing in the gym, I'm sure, and the ballet.
yeah, but what about the gross tricks, as I like to call them? Your child
Party
comes up to you
tricks.
and says, "Look what I can do," and it's like,
Well, we've just done some, haven't we? Yeah, they're going to do it because they're getting the attention, aren't they? It's a difficult one.
but
I,
is it? I suppose my question is it harmful in the long term, like, or is
Yeah,
it? Oh, it's fine.
yeah, we don't advise it, like, too much, because it will be difficult unless you've been trained. That's what I'm trying to say. But I don't want to, I was there. I know what it's like. I wouldn't like someone telling me not to do it. It's about getting that balance of, if you want to, what do you want to do when you're older? Oh, I want to do this or do ballet. Well, then try not to do so much, because then you'll be stronger, and sort of explain it. That's what I'm trying to
So
say.
keep
But
keep the party tricks for special occasions.
I'm not even sure that that's good. It's I mean, it depends what you mean by party-tracks. Do you mean like the
think it's just
crab
life
over,
now.
like the crab walking over? Is that it?
Oh well, I don't know. Look how far I can get my leg behind my head, and look
Ah,
how that that kind of thing. Sophia's just
yeah.
laughing at me.
I haven't got an answer really. It would depend on the
Okay.
child, knowing them, how they react to things like that. I mean, some will say, "Oh yeah, I get that. Yeah, okay," and some will say, "No, don't tell me what to do. I'm not being told what to do." So,
You can stick in PD in there as well then.
well, yeah, I like doing it, and sometimes it feels good. So why should I believe what? And I'm not going to be like you. They'll go, you're old," which I've had for years.
You
So.
mentioned the crab there. I used to do that all the time. I used to do headstands, handstands, upside down most of the
Yeah,
time. And I would be doing the crab and even walking as well, like on like flipped over, like all sorts of mad things. Okay, so I see if my mum had known then, right? This is all connected. Maybe that would have helped her.
yeah. And so, I mean, I did the crab, and I, you go through phases of years. You might be really fine, but then you might have an illness like I had scarlet fever. So when I was growing up, a lot of people, everybody had glandular fever. That was the thing. Everybody had glandular fever, and you had to have bed rest. Um, then it was Epstein-Barr and all sorts. Lyme disease is a key one. They've got something in common there. And then I've got other diagnoses. I think you said something earlier about fibromyalgia and arthritis. I think you said I've got all those diagnoses. I had those earlier. I had fibromyalgia, irritable bowel syndrome, chronic fatigue syndrome. I didn't get the ME. I got chronic fatigue, and I did and osteoarthritis because of all my injuries. It's much longer. I was going to be the first bionic woman apparently. Um, but it didn't make sense to me, and when I saw the science growing, it did. So this is the neurodivergence we talk about. There is more, obviously, but this is the main science is about autism, ADHD, dyspraxia, and Tourette's at the moment. Almost definitely dyslexia and dyscalculia. And so, yeah, the connective tissue is probably different in these neurodivergence. And it's not just one or the other. We think they're all connected, hence our multiple diagnoses. And so the brain is to the body. And as I say, I've never met an autistic person or ADHD person, go into a building, go into work, or get up without a body following, luckily. And our connective tissue's there. So let's not ignore it anymore. It's not, it's going to change. It will change. I know, we know. It's just getting it accepted. And so we're the first charity to have put this together. I'm going to see what else I've got.
I had another question, but I think we're overrunning. But my
I
question
bet we
was
are.
probably, I'm hoping you can say, oh well, if you keep looking at the website, you're going to find out. You, I think, implied that the diagnostic criteria might be changing. Did I hear that right? Or did you not say that at all?
We think so. So we sit with an alliance with the EDS Society, the global charity, and they did the 2017 consortium for EDS and HSD. And the children one is different. You will not get hypermobility Ehlers-Danlos for children. Okay, that's something different, which I can show you. But we think the Baton scale, which I showed you earlier, is going to change. Here's the science. So this is by Dr. Eccles, our patrons team. She's got a new YouTube channel out called Bendy Brain. Good name, yeah. And she doesn't live too far from me. So she's been working on this a lot. Her initial PhD was on this as well. But the first study on this was 2016, and it said that if you have Ehlers-Danlos, you are 7.6 times more likely to be autistic and 5.6 ADHD. And there was also a less ratio for bipolar and depression or siblings. This one shows that hypermobility, as I said, you know, that proprioception dyspraxia is probably the mechanism between orthostatic intolerance, so POTS, dysautonomia, and neurodivergence, and also between neurodivergence and musculoskeletal systems, and that affects the proprioception. So that's a scientific graph, but it does say neurodivergent people are over double more likely to have pain. So that's autistic, ADHD, Tourette's had more pain and more chronic fatigue than the general population in this study. So if your communities want to see the science, then we've got our websites being updated very, very soon. But we've got some research on the research page, and have a look. So we've got the science there and the actual papers they come from.
Kabie, what's going through my head and all this stuff is when we're working with, for example, policy, neurodivergence, we're talking about the bill or we're talking about the NHS or education, how we're supposed to improve things for neurodivergent people in Scotland. This, like I said, it's not really talked about. I think diagnosis for all this stuff is pretty much rare to non-existent. It just makes it more important to understand autism, to understand neurodivergence because of the implications of it on our health.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
how
and
do we get that across to them?
yeah, the additional barriers that neurodivergent people have when they are, I mean, you touched on that, Jane, a bit earlier. When you're
Yeah.
going to the GP or whatever, and you can't, sometimes you just can't find the words to explain. Like, I'll go to the GP and say, I've got a pain, I think it's somewhere here. And it's just like, they just look at you like, have you
It's so
really?
difficult. It is difficult.
You know, because,
It's actually almost more complex. If you're looking after, we often carers. If you're looking after someone, you might know them and can help a little bit. If you're looking after yourself, I know I've discharged myself when I shouldn't have done, and it's really, really difficult because you get set in stone. And then I think of those with severe learning disability. They probably do have a connective tissue, so that is an area I haven't had time to go in, but I'm convinced of that. So yeah, I do think we have a lot of issues, and I don't want to be morbid. I keep saying this. If we have the right support and management and get this through, what we're doing, the future generations will have better support. I've sat in quite a few meetings. I haven't even published them this week with things that are going into our parliament. One was good, one not so good, and waste of money, really, because they're spending a lot of money on something which is only going to have so much impact, isn't it? So yeah, I mean, we'd love to help you make a difference with your Scottish Parliament. These are some more studies we can go into, but I know you're over time. I'm going
Yeah.
to move on from coffee. There's a burnout one. That's what happens. That's burnout. You've got executive functioning and you've got anxiety. We always put them down to social, emotional, mental, environmental health. They're actually also physical. And
Thank
there's
you
some
so
more
much,
about long
Jane.
COVID I won't go into.
Oh, yeah, disproportionately impacted, I bet, with
Yeah,
COVID. Yeah,
that's the data.
thank you so much, Jane, for your time and your expertise. There's definitely a lot for us to think about when we're trying to understand ourselves, our loved ones, and our communities, but then also making people more aware that it's actually wider because we just think that only 1 in 100 is autistic. And then you try to think about all this stuff and all this, yeah, exactly, right, Katie? you need to really rethink about neurodivergence in our society and how,
I'm just whizzing through. Carry
yeah,
on.
that's okay. Like, Kabie, what's your thoughts?
Sorry, what's my thoughts on what I got totally distracted by
Just
looking
try
at the
all
Sorry,
screen?
this.
I know this isn't my usual thing. I couldn't remember where I was.
It's well informal. It's cool. Thank you for keeping
Yeah,
us up.
my thoughts are, well, the Eldan bill at the moment doesn't really touch on physical health at all, or
Apart from the
it's
checks,
very
which didn't
limited.
even put through though, the annual checks.
Yeah, the annual
Oh,
checks for autistic people
no, they
aren't
don't.
going through, which is a bit ridiculous. But
Oh,
yeah, it's a lot to digest and
I'm
something to
sorry. Yeah, and so sometimes this can be quite traumatic for people. I'm quite aware of that. When I do live talks, I often make sure there's a counsellor there because
Oh, wow.
you know it is real. When some of our members say I've finally got a diagnosis, it's real. That's great. The only trouble is the diagnosis is difficult to get now because the the rheumatologists who used to give it out have stopped giving it out slightly unless you go to a private one. And that's an issue because if we don't get the data, the diagnosis, then we're going to come really rare again. We weren't rare, but we will be rare and it'll go back to fibromyalgia. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're trying to get out. It's really important. If you follow Dr. Eccles' YouTube, she does little clips of things where they're going. And there are other researchers as well. There's an awful lot. We're very diverse, hence the unicorns and all this, very, very diverse. So some of our trustees can't be there, but I think they outnumber white British, put it that way, on our board. So SEDS Connective stands for symptomatic hypermobility, Ehlers-Danlos neurodivergence, got the D, and it was in Sussex, but now it's symptoms. And the connective, you can see why. So
Yeah, it's all connected. It's very much all connected. Thank you so much. I will have you
thank
in.
you.
I want to do lots of training in our community. I'm working primarily with South Asians this year, but then beyond those folks, the groups that I'm working with. And I would like this information out everywhere so we can understand and just make it normalized having this knowledge because this is about our lives. And if you don't know how we're supposed to look after ourselves, I always say know your brain to be able to understand yourself and get better at what you do. But then you also need to know your body as well. And we all ignore our body because we just
I know.
ignore ourselves most of the time. We don't understand what's going on because we don't have the words. And that's what I was wanting for today is like your graphics have been really, really helpful. And for us to start learning what the words and the symptoms or what we see and what we experience with ourselves or people that we care for. I'm going to close off the YouTube live now. Katie, do you want to say anything else before we close off?
No, just thank you to Jane.
Huge thanks, Jane.
Oh, thank you.
And I will try to stop this YouTube.